A keystone block retaining wall can be a great landscaping feature in your place. They're a good way to flatten off an area in your yard to create some useful space or make a raised garden, and are pretty easy to build yourself. But it's always best to check with your local council before starting to see if your retaining wall needs to comply with any Unitary Plan or Resource Management Act requirements. You can build a retaining wall up to 1.5 metres without needing a building consent. However, a keystone retaining wall like we'll be building, you can only build them up to 900 millimetres. If you are building a retaining wall higher than 1.5 metres or retaining anything like a driveway, parking space or building above the wall, you'll need an engineer to draw up the plans for you. For retaining walls 1 metre or higher, you may be required to install a safety barrier. If you're building your retaining wall on a boundary, the entire cut behind the wall, your fill and drainage all need to be on your side of the boundary. As a general rule, your wall will need to be set back from the boundary the same distance as or greater than the wall height. It's also a good idea to check your plans for the location of any pipes before digging and call your electricity provider for any information on underground wires. And finally, for block walls over 3 layers or around 300 millimetres high, you will require groundwater drainage behind the wall and a drain layer to connect the pipe to the stormwater. Today I'm going to be building a retaining wall using these Firth keystone retaining wall blocks. Now there is a wide range to choose from. I'm going to be using the style called Country Manor. The thing I like about these, they've got this really nice rough texture on the outside, makes it kind of look a little bit like a rock finished wall, and there's also 3 in the range, so we've got small, medium and large. A really simple product to use. You just put the pins in, stack the blocks and tidy up the top with a capping stone. So I'm going to be building my retaining wall in a nice straight line that's going to be coming parallel off the fence. Now, in order to do that, I need at least 500 millimetres from our cutout for our footing. So I've got about 1100 millimetres of bank here, plus our 500 mil. And I want my footing trench to be 50 millimetres in front of the face of my wall for stability. So that's 1.6. I'll put a peg down on either end and then run a string line. Remember, if your retaining wall is on a boundary, then the cut, fill and drainage all need to be on your side of the boundary. So allow for this when setting up your string line. All I'm going to do now is put a dazzle line along there so I know exactly where to dig, and then I can get rid of the string line for now. Now to finish this wall off really nice and neat, what I'm going to do is put a 90 degree in it and have that finish nice and neatly up against our fence. What I've got here is a quite common rafter square. I'm just going to sit that parallel with our front string line and just got a little bit of timber, use it as a guide. Now all I need to do is exactly the same for the other side. Each block has a 90 degree end and a tapered end, allowing the units to be used in corners, straight line walls and in curves. Handy tip, if you're creating a curve, use a flexible pipe and pegs, or you could use your garden hose to help you get the right shape. Righty, I'm just about to rip in to start digging out for my footing. So I'm going to be coming in 50 mil. I've got a 250 mil block, leaving 200 millimetres for the drainage coil at the back. And then I'm going to fill that whole void full of scoria. Dig your footing trench 500 wide by 300 millimetres deep. Add 75 millimetres of base course, compact it, then add another 75 mils and compact it again, making sure it's level from front to back. When you place your first row of blocks, they should be level with the ground. If your section is sloping, you'll need to step down your trench in 150 millimetre increments before adding the base course. Then stack your blocks to form a straight line. Okay, my footing's all dug out nice and neat. That's looking fantastic. I've got a laser on a tripod here. I'm just going to check out what my ground level is doing, see how level I am. My retaining wall is an L shape and the trench should be 300 millimetres deep right the way round. You'll need to place your staff at intervals, then subtract soil until the laser beeps to indicate it's level. This step is essential if you want a wall to last a lifetime without shifting and moving. Take your time because you won't be able to fix it after it's built. Next, lay down your base course. I need 150 millimetres of base course, so what I'm going to do is put down 75 mil first. compact that, check it out for level, and then I'm going to put in my second layer of base course.
The base material can be gravel, road base or crushed stone. Just don't use pea gravel or sand, as those rocks dislodge under pressure.
So what I'm going to do is start putting my first block in the corner here. Now I'm going to bring that 50mm back from our cut edge. So if I just drop that in position. Okay, now we've got 3 sets of holes in the top of our block here. I'm going to be putting my pins that locate our blocks together in the back hole. Now what that does is allows a 9.5 degree back set on every one. If I was to put these in the middle, what that does is gives me a vertical wall. Now if I was to put that fiberglass pin at the front, what that does is allows the block to go forward and back, but I'm going to keep mine in the back.
Make sure your block is level, then run another string line in line with your fiberglass pins. Do this at each corner of your trench.
All the hard work's done, so essentially all I got to do is build my wall. I've got 3 different size blocks. I've got a large, small and a medium, so that's the pattern that I'm going to create. You can choose whatever sort of pattern you like. So the central rule is making sure that our string line is in line, and what we're going to also look out for is to make sure that our front face of our blocks are touching each other.
As you place your blocks down, check the level, then use a rubber mallet to tap any blocks into place.
Okay, so I'm just coming up to my first block that I put down. Now this wasn't in the exact position of where I want it, it's just a guide. So what I'm going to need to do is put in a small block, and then I'm just going to have to take that one out, take a small and a medium. That's going to give me a nice square, and that's going to butt onto that one, and that's going to give me my 90 degree in there.
And that's the first row of blocks complete.
Okay, so I'm just installing my perforated drain coil. Now this has got a filter sock on it. Straight after I've done that, I'm going to be backfilling with scoria.
Every block retaining wall over 3 layers or around 300mm high requires drainage. Before putting in your pins, clean out your pin holes and wipe away any debris on the blocks.
Put our pins in. Before we put our block down, just check the underside of these blocks. Sometimes in the casting process there might be a couple of little dags still on there. So we'll just give that a wee little rub down with an old brick, and then we can start laying.
Make sure your joins are staggered. That way you're ensuring you are building the strongest wall possible.
Just laid this last block. Now, as you can see, it lines up with the one below. Ideally, we want to try and stagger the joints as much as we can. So I'm just going to pop that one out, and I'm going to replace it with a bigger one. That way, it'll straddle the join.
Backfill as you go and fill any open cavities with scoria. This will make your wall sturdier. Repeat these steps until you get to your desired wall height.
Okay, I've just set up a string line in line with the back of the blocks. What that's doing is just ensuring that I get a really nice straight line with that top layer. And what that also is going to ensure when I come to lay my cappings, I'm going to get a perfectly straight line as well. Okay, I'm just about to lay my capping stones on top of my wall. It's going to finish it off really nicely. Now, you can either glue these down or just sit them on. That's up to you. I'm going to choose to glue them down. I've got some concrete adhesive here. So all I'm going to do is apply some adhesive to our blocks, lay these down on top. These capping stones are a little bit wider than our blocks, so you can either have them overhanging front or back. What I'm going to do is go flush with the back and let the front overhang. Now I've come to the end of my run and I'm a little bit short, so what I've done is chop the end off one of the capping stones using my diamond tip angle grinder. Now if you don't want to use one of those, what you can do is buy yourself a bolster. Pretty much going to do the same job.
Glue the stone and place it on top.
There we go, retaining wall done.
Nice and tidy, and that'll last you for years.
And you know what? It really was easy as.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Mitre 10 YouTube channel for more great content, or click here to watch more now.